I did it again. Hello everyone, welcome to another Voice Essentials Hangout. I've got all sort of things going on here. It is so good to be with you. What is it today? Monday the 28th of October in Australia. I'm a good deal of time ahead of most of you. Most of you are still finishing your weekend. I hope you've had a great weekend. And today we're going to be doing a Q&A as we are given to doing here every now and then. Of course, we have here on the show on the Voice Essentials live show, we have special guests from all over the world. We have Q&As. We have the song review 2 weeks ago with Kathy, which is kind of our first of the new iteration of that part of the show. Was just fabulous, wasn't it, Kathy? You were wonderful. But of course we do a whole range of different things here on the show. And last week we had Jeff Ramsey from Berkeley, and he was fantastic. He was a lot of fun. Enjoyed having him on the show. Today, Q&A, we're going to answer some of your questions. We won't get to all of them. We generally don't get to all of them. And I will do my best to answer your questions, but I don't know everything, and so if I don't know the answer, I'll be sure to tell you. But we were able to tick off most questions, so that's good. Before we get started into today's questions, I did just want to let you know about a few housekeeping things. As you know, Voice Essentials 3. Let me give you a gaze at it. There it is. It is. We are. Let me just. I just want to double check that I'm not doubling up with sound. There we go. Is that good now? I hope that's good now. We are. I'm really excited about Voice Essentials 3. Talk about a labor of love. It has been a big program. I'm just going to turn my audio down a bit because I think I might be a bit loud for you all. There we go. Now, Voice Essentials 3, all things being equal, and we don't run into any unforeseen technical issues with the mastering, etc., it should be ready for release this time next week, Monday next week, the 4th of November. Wow, it has been a big push to get this one ready because, of course, we're not only releasing 15 new exercises to basically complete the Voice Essentials suite. There's Voice Essentials 1, Voice Essentials 2, and now Voice Essentials 3. So it's 50 exercises in total. Crazy. When I first recorded Voice Essentials 1 back in 2013, I had no plans to do 2, let alone 3, but here we are. So I'm really excited about it because it really does up the ante. There's some really advanced activities in the collection, and there's a couple of harmony activities, like little songettes that you can learn to sing and hold harmony, and I'm really looking forward to getting your feedback and finding out how you interact. But of course, along with getting those tracks all together, I've also been preparing the lesson sheets that go with it, and I am sort of doing a dual launch, if you like, Voice Essentials 3, as well as releasing the Voice Essentials 1, 2, and 3 exercise, what I'm calling exercise e-manuals, PDFs of all of the lesson sheets. Now, to date, the only way you could get the lesson sheets, which are like a full sheet for every single exercise, it goes into more depth, it gives you the transcription of the notes, it gives you sometimes it gives you extra things to do. I've an associated video that goes with each activity, and it sort of just walks you through it step by step. To date, you've only been able to get those exercises via either here in my studio, having one-on-one lessons with me, or the Voice Essentials 1 online course, which you are seeing. You can get to the link below there. The lesson sheets are available through that course for Voice Essentials 1. But of course now you're going to be able to get Voice Essentials 1, 2 and 3, the exercises, the lesson sheets. It will all be bundled into a super bundle, and it'll be about $97.99. I think it's going to be about $97 that you'll be able to get a hold of it, the whole thing, for less than $100. It's really, I'm really hopeful that it will put the tools in your hand that you need to really extend and develop your voice further. Of course, some of you already have Voice Essentials 1 and Voice Essentials 2, the tracks, the exercise tracks. And so for 1 week only, next week, for 1 week only, the Voice Essentials 3 exercise collection is going to be available for $19.95. It's regularly $24.95, so a little bit of a saving. Just for those of you who want to complete the set, you'll be able to get a hold of that. And then if you want to add just the exercise sheets for 1, 2 and 3, the e-manuals, then you will be able to bundle those, and they will be $54.95 as a full set. So you will be able, if you've already owned Voice Essentials 1 and Voice Essentials 2, then you won't have to pay the full $97 and double up on your payment. You will save some money there. So there you go. Wanted to update you with that. Next week, I'll remind you all again next week when we come back together, because next week we are going to have special guests on the show. Laurel and Dr. David are going to be joining us. They are from a really groovy website called Voice Science Works, and I'm looking forward to spending that. They are true, vocal pedagogy, voice science nerds, and it's going to be really good to interact with them. I hope you'll tune into the show next week at 2 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time, Monday the 4th. A couple of things about next year. I know, I am about to talk about 2020. We're not yet finished 2019, but we're getting there. It's coming up pretty quickly. It's only 7 weeks left of my studio year, which is, dear me. Okay, next year, so this has got nothing to do with the remainder of this year. Next year, we are going to be moving the live show to a 1 p.m. time slot. Australian Eastern Standard Time. I'm bumping it back to 1 p.m. because, do you know what? For the last 2 years, whenever we have special guests, especially our special guests who live on the eastern coast of the US, they have been so generous, because nearly all of them have been joining us at their midnight, which is wonderfully generous of them to do so. But I think it behoves me to kind of let's bump it so that at least if they do join us from the east coast of the US, they're joining us at 11 p.m. on a Sunday night, not basically Monday. So we're going to do that, and hopefully it will also make things a little easier for many of you who like to watch the show live, who also live down the east coast of the US. And so just take note that that is not happening until next year. As regards to this year, our last live show is going to be December the 9th. I think it's the 9th of Monday the 9th, if that's it's in December. The last show will be Monday the 9th of December. And then we will not come back until the beginning of February. So just a heads up that it's a sizable break. But look, I think it's good to have a holiday. Rest let the ground go fallow for a bit. Give me a bit of a break. Give Linda a bit of a break. She tunes in every week and collates our questions, and so we're just going to take that good period of time off. In Australia, it is our summer holiday period, so I hope you'll excuse me for taking some time off over that time. And then finally, before we get into our Q&A today, I do want to really encourage you to participate in the song review. Now, in the live song review show, as I said, 2 weeks ago, we had Kathy Snyder joined us And for those of you who watched the show, we reviewed one of her songs, and then we workshopped and masterclassed just some aspects of Kathy's developmental technique. Now, I've had a couple of people email me, and I've sent them the information regarding the live show, but I haven't heard back. I want to encourage you, if you are enrolled in the Voice Essentials online course, and you're an active member of the Facebook community page, the Voice Essentials community group page, then this is essentially a free voice lesson. It would normally, to spend an hour with me in Australia, it's normally about $125 Australian dollars, and so you're kind of getting a free singing lesson, if you like. True, everyone is watching while we do that, but I know Kathy found it to be a really positive experience, and from your comments, not only in the live show, but also what I saw on Facebook, you guys really got a lot out of it. So I'm really wanting to continue to do that long live song review show, but the only way I can do it is if I have participants. So if you want to participate, email me, and I'll send you all the information, the talent release forms and what have you, so that we can do that. I really hope some of you will participate. We're probably only going to have time to do one more live song review show before we break for the festive period, but I hope to receive your emails in time. I think that's enough housekeeping. I think we need to get into today's show, and yeah, let's do that, because and let me play our usual Q&A bumper. Okay, it's so good to have so many of you. I'm just going to double check that I haven't kept that playing. I'm just going to make sure we've got no music behind. Okay, I'm pretty sure we're good. Oh, so many of you in the live chat today. Let me just jump in here, and wowzers, good to see you all. And all the usuals, Matt and Michelle, good to see you. Linda, of course, it's always good to see Linda in the live show. And to all of those of you who are maybe joining us for the first time, good to have you. Make sure you let everyone know where you're from, and always remember, and Linda governs this pretty well, but just remember, here at Voice Essentials, we are kind to one another, we're encouraging to one another, and just be mindful of that in a live chat, because we want this to be a really positive experience for everyone. And so for the most part, that's generally what happens here as a part of the live show. So thanks everyone for that. Let's jump across and read some questions. Okay, so I'll start with today's questions. We've got a whole heap from way back, but I'm just going to jump into today's questions. Ujal Uzer, I'm terrible with the pronunciation of these names. I apologize. I do my best. Sir, is it possible to sing every song in a husky voice if the voice is not naturally husky, or is there a way to make my voice permanently husky as it is not husky naturally? Well, firstly, I don't think it's advisable to go seeking to make your voice permanently husky. And the reason for that is a husky voice is generally entertaining and experiencing higher levels of wear and tear than a clean, balanced, clear sound. We do like to add huskiness to our sound in some contemporary genres, and it's certainly a valued aesthetic, but we want to always make choice for voice, don't we? We want to be able to always have a clean, clear, balanced sound as our central point, right? Excuse me, I just saw my bunged up finger there. Remember I dislocated and broke my finger a few months back? that's sort of what I'm left with. That's the good one. That's the bad one just there. See how it doesn't go all the way down? It doesn't hurt anymore, but it's no longer straight. Okay. So you don't, well, that's maybe a case in point. A voice that's always husky is always going to have that little bit of a hole in it in the adduction of the vocal folds. It could be produced through either higher breath flow or constriction at the level of the vocal folds. And so it can really tire and wear out the voice a lot quicker. There is a video on my channel that you can go and check out about adding huskiness to your sound. There is likewise a video about removing the breathy, husky sound from your voice also. So you might want to go and check those out in your own time. Matt always gets his question in. If I wanted to break the record for the lowest bass notes, oh, Matt, you and your questions about bass voice. Is that something that we can be practiced, or is that something that we can come or not? I don't know, Matt. It really, again, it comes down to your anatomy, and what is your anatomy capable of? I don't know whether your voice is capable of the lowest bass note song. That would be super cool if you could get a Guinness Book of Records for that. Equally, I wonder, given if we think about a bass note, we don't hear the lowest tones below 20 hertz. And so the human ear can hear on average between 20 hertz through to 20 kilohertz, 20,000 hertz. And so I wonder whether we'd need to scope a singer to actually see the voice, the vocal folds oscillate to hear. I don't know, I'm speculating, purely speculating. It definitely would be something that a person would need to practice over time, Matt, to get to that point. But equally, I don't know whether I can say to you, set off on that journey now, and you are going to realize your dream of singing the lowest bass note, because we don't know what the potential of your anatomy is. So, Andrew Pattinson. Sir, I've strained my voice so much on A4 that it has gone down. Sore throat. How can I bring my voice back to normal? Rest. Andrew, rest the voice. If the voice does not return to what you would know as its normal, after 2 weeks, then I would be advising you to see someone, to have your voice scoped by a laryngologist, who can then assess your general vocal health. A4, certainly for many baritones, that is high. It would all come down to whether you've been overexerting the voice with too much subglottal pressure, and how loud you've been singing that note. I mean, if you were singing that in falsetto, I wouldn't expect that would strain you too much, but evidently you've strained your voice, so I dare say you've been really trying to push it up there. Rest, Andrew. Everyone, if your voice falls into disrepair, that is, you get to a sustained sore throat, over a day or two, please rest the voice. Now, that's not absolute rest. There's a difference between absolute rest and relative rest. When I'm talking about vocal rest, I'm talking about relative rest. I'm talking about the idea that you reduce the vocal load that you would normally have to carry. Absolute voice rest is where you are completely silent. There are times where absolute voice rest should be, I don't know what the right word is, should be done, okay? That's not my best grammar for that, but and so, for example, if you have laryngitis, where you have no voice and there's no sound coming, that is a time to have absolute voice rest, where you adhere to complete silence. But even then, that's only going to be for around about 24 hours, and generally the swelling will come down to a point where you can start to phonate lightly. When I say lightly, I'm not meaning whispering. Do not whisper. Whispering can really wear and tear at the voice even more so than, so yeah, always. But anyway, in the case of Andrew, I'm recommending relative rest. So you're still allowed to talk, Andrew, but you should talk less. You're still allowed, but you shouldn't sing. Don't. If you've sprained your ankle, don't go for a 5-kilometer run. You've got to get that swelling down and allow the joints and the ligaments to heal, and we do that through rest. Okay. Dane's Vlogs. Can I ask you how you will know if you are singing with your real voice or a fake voice? Well, firstly, Danes, there is I do have a video on my channel about this very subject, and in fact, I think I've got a couple of videos on the channel about this subject. You can go searching for those. Dane, can I just say to you and to anyone who is thinking, because this is not the reason I've done videos on it, because it's not an unusual question, so I don't want to trivialize the question, but I do want to normalize it to say that there is no such thing as a real voice or a fake voice. Your voice is your voice. The anatomy that is creating all of your sound, your larynx, is real. Now, we can find ourselves forming sound that is not in keeping with what we would perhaps normally think of as being what we associate or think is our normal voice. One of the ways in which you can get a lot more value out of learning more about what you would describe as your normal voice, your real voice, is to actually spend time with it doing activities like singing exercises where you get to actually experience what does your real tone sound like. And so doing things like my Voice Essentials exercises, whether it be through the online course, links below, or the exercises that we're about to release through Voice Essentials 3, well, you'd start on Voice Essentials 1 because that's the beginner end of things. And by spending more time with your voice, you become more au fait with it. How do we build relationship with anyone? We spend time with them. To have a relationship with your voice is to spend time with it, to get to know it, to not only know it audibly, but to know it physically, kinesthetically, so that you can manage the health of your voice also that way. Arif Hossain, how can you overcome an asthma problem? Well, the Arif, asthma is really a medical field, and therefore, as I clearly state in the description of every video that I post, I am not a medical doctor. I am an academic doctor in music. So I want to be very careful here in giving you medical advice because that is not my place. I suffer from seasonal asthma, and I have had to find what is the triggers for my seasonal asthma. For me, dust mites and mold are my two triggers. And so we have to go about, in our ensuite, Jody, my wife, is very good at keeping the mold right down. With dust mites, we wash our sheets our bed sheets in really hot water, and we always hang them in the sun. These things to sort of kill off dust mites, etc. So it's a matter of identifying what are your triggers. If you have, regular asthma where it's not just purely triggered by something that might be seasonal like mold, then your best port of call is to talk with a lung specialist. Here in Australia, you would need to go via a GP, a general practitioner. to get a referral, to find yourself with a specialist who can, walk you through the best medications, because some of the medications for asthma are really challenging for singers. But look, I always say to singers who are suffering from asthma, you have to be able to breathe to sing. You don't have to be able to sing to breathe. Yeah, we got to get you breathing well first before we then worry about the singing. So making sure you got the cart before we want the horse before the cart. And so, Arif, almost certainly, I hope you have some access to someone that you can talk about that within the medical profession. But that being said, there is a video on this subject on my channel. You can go and have a search for that. Dragon Ball Prince. Why do some voice teachers say I'm a high baritone and others, most of them, say I am a high tenor? My range is A2 to F sharp 5. I'm a worship music major, by the way. Oh, good for you, Dragon Ball Prince. There's again, I know I always reference videos on the channel, but there is over 450 of them, and often the videos go into far more depth than I can in the Q&A about specific subjects. So once again, Dragon Ball, there is a video on this subject about voice classification and how do you classify the voice, and we talk about a thing called prima voce and seconda voce. It all depends on where your prima voce sits. So some voice teachers may have heard you sing and may hear that your sweet spot, where you feel most comfortable, where your voice feels or sounds the fullest and the richest, actually sits towards the lower part of your voice. If that's the case, then the highest note is not what determines your voice type. It can be an indicator, but we've got to really take a number of things, a number of indicators to arrive at what is your voice classification. And then we decide from there. As far as worship music goes, look, leading worship, it's a matter of choosing keys that are going to facilitate the congregational voice to the best of your ability. And so sometimes your own voice classification is not really that important. What's important is that you developed your voice so that you can kind of sing across quite a wide range and sustain that for a worship set. There's more to that. We won't get into that today. But yeah, I'd go looking for where is your prima voce, and then you might be able to find your voice classification from there. That being said, don't get too hung up on voice classification. I've made this point many times before. Caleb, how can I get my vocal range and get my vocal perfect like Dimash? How do I get my voice to be like that? Can you help with that? Also, how can I sing deeper? Caleb, Dimash, for all accounts and purposes, is a freak of nature. And one of my earlier videos that I did here on the channel, I talk about, I ask the question, are you the exception to the rule? Do you know what? Most of us are not the exception to the rule. Most of us fit quite neatly into some very generalized rules about voice. That does not demote or dilute your individuality in the slightest. We're all wonderfully different, but equally we're all wonderfully the same. Every now and then we get these freaks of nature like Dimash, like one of my friends here in Brisbane, Adam Lopez, who can sing off the top of a keyboard. At one stage, probably still does, has the Guinness Book World Record for the highest note sung. That's not normal, and we shouldn't see that, hear that, and go, "Wow, that's cool. I want to do that," because your anatomy almost certainly is not going to do that. And in fact, you could really do your voice a great disservice from a health point of view in attempting that. And so we have to be very careful. You know, Dimash is an exception. Adam Lopez, an exception. You know, and you may well be an exception. And I you know, it's not for me to say that you are not. However, because I put it this way, Carl, I've never heard you sing. But chances are you are not. Just like me, just like the majority of us watching this show today, chances are your voice, on average, the human voice is able to sing across about 3 octaves-ish. But you don't really need any more than that. We don't need more than 3 octaves. The vast majority of people you hear on the radio, not all, hear me clearly, I'm not saying all, but I'm saying the vast majority of people on the radio, their songs cover an octave and a half, maybe sometimes push out to 2 octaves, but in general, sit within an octave and a half. There is a fascination, dare I say, an obsession with range on YouTube, you know, with singers. And it's a fun pursuit as a hobby, but as far as learning to sing and being able to present a song and sing it with you know, a level of polish, range is not really, you know, I don't spend time with my private students developing, certainly not in the first instance when we're first developing their technique. Range is not what we're after. We're after tone, we're after muscular balance, we're after good body alignment, we're about improving breath flow. You know, these are the things, if you focus on those things first, then all of these other things may well be added unto you in time. Montagem. Hi Dan, recently got a sore throat from singing a lot one day. Can you please tell me if I can get rid of it? You mean get rid of the sore throat, I guess. Yeah, rest. We talked about that right back at the beginning of today's video. I won't go into it anymore. Rest the voice. If it's not okay within a couple of weeks, then have someone look at it. But most of the time, rest is what will see the voice repair. And the human voice is wonderfully resilient. It really is. It's when we hammer it and keep hammering it that we can really run into trouble. So, you know, use it, and then if you really think you've overstepped the mark as far as your general vocal health, then give it some rest, you know. Guess that bit's not rocket science, is it? TGLAZ1. I can't even, there are too many consonants in that name for me to even try to pronounce it. How can I take my chest voice higher into the C4 octave? Do you mean, oh, okay, like prior to C5, I guess. Only found this part of my voice. I lose forward placement, resonance, and sound really nasally unless I make it super breathy. Look, chest voice development, what we refer to as, in fact, I've got one of my big videos. These are the videos where I spend big dollars on animation and go into far more depth around explanation and exercises, etc. One of the most recent ones, only released a few months ago, is about voice registration. Really, I really recommend you watch it, because it's going to give you a little bit more of an understanding about voice registration, how it works. Your lower register, what some people refer to as chest voice, or M1, mode 1, is you know, being able to sustain that tonality higher requires muscular development, and also your ability to manage the laryngeal setup as well as the acoustic, the resonance setups to take that voice higher. and in part, there's some ligament stretch, and it's a very dangerous thing to do if you just, hammer at the voice. So you want to be really careful about it. You can learn to do it, and I've got a video on the channel, and there's exercises in Voice Essentials 1 actually about developing a chest voice sound. Belt is a really good activity to assist with this, and you might want to check that all out. Again, we won't go into any more detail. Anil from India. Hey Anil, nice to have you on the show. Have a vocal cord disorder, how do I train my voice? That's a hard question to answer, Anil, because vocal cord disorders come in so many different shapes, sizes and dimensions, and I would need, firstly, if you have a vocal cord disorder, my place in the team with working with singers whose voices have fallen into disrepair, whether it be through organic issues, such as, for example, a cyst, or whether it be a vocal fold hemorrhage, which is more functional. My part is to, the voice is first seen as by a laryngologist, it moves into care with a speech pathologist, and then they come into my studio, and we're taking that work that the speechy has done with the voice and furthering that into the heightened activity of singing. And so I would need to know that you've traveled that journey before I could really input any thoughts into what that is. What I can tell you is if you do have a significant, to use your words, vocal cord disorder, training yourself is almost certainly going to be highly problematic. You really do best to be guided by someone who really knows what they're doing. And that does not mean just taking advice off random YouTube videos, including mine. If your voice is really, got some issues, then you need one-on-one direct care. I know that can be an expensive thing, and I don't know where you live in India or what your personal circumstance is, but perhaps given that you can access YouTube, perhaps it is a feasible thing for you to seek out that heightened medical care first before you then seek out the vocal development aspect of things. Sal has asked, if I have a sore throat for a week, it can harm my voice. Should I stop singing? Yeah. I mean, unless you're a professional singer and, the old adage, the show must go on because you're being paid to get up there and do your thing. Take time out. It's when we just hammer away at the voice relentlessly and don't give it opportunity for rest and repair. That's when we run into trouble. So try to be, just take a break. Jennifer Oranger, I have a little trouble singing very high notes. Is there a way to sing high notes more easily? Jennifer, that really comes down to, whoa, I've just scrolled. There are a lot of questions, guys. We're not going to get to all of them. I'm going to have to finish up in a minute because I've got to teach this afternoon. Remember, Jennifer, singing high notes. Again, it all depends on the manner of what you are trying to sing, the dynamic with which you are trying to sing it, and the way your mechanism has been set up at a muscular level, so there's a whole range of sort of things there. Again, there's videos on my channel about singing higher, and that you may well find helpful. I am going to do 2 more questions. I'm only doing 2 more. Linny Gadangan. I don't know whether I've said that right, Linny. Linny, yeah, I think that's how I'd pronounce it. How many minutes to have a warm-up for my voice before singing, Linny, my recommendation's always around about 10 minutes. You know, I know there are people on YouTube and on the net where they advocate for, 3 minutes will do it. In my humble opinion, I think that we really, to motivate the right amount of blood flow and get the muscles starting to move through their full range of motion, which cannot be done, straight away. You've got to give that opportunity for blood flow, etc. 10 minutes, and for some it's going to be, 10 to 12, 15 minutes. No longer. It's not going to be any longer than that, Linny, but for some people it might be, 8 minutes. But you've got to give it time. We do live in a fast-paced, crazy world that wants everything to happen yesterday. What is 10 minutes? I mean, seriously, it's nothing, Some ad breaks on free-to-air TV go longer than 10 minutes. I'm being facetious. So, 10 minutes is not a long time. So just discipline yourself, build it into your workout regime. And if you're using, for example, Voice Essentials, the Voice Essentials exercise suite, then really, if you can use the first few activities, probably the first 5, 6, 7, 8 exercises on Voice Essentials 1 as a warm-up, and it just gradually exercises and massages and gets the voice going. Last question is to Nelson Blake II. Any suggestions for E vowels? That part is lagging behind in my progress. E vowels. E is a very open vowel at the back of the throat, but a very narrow at the very front. E. And so we do want to monitor the sense of breath flow, etc. I find that with an E vowel, you do have to back the pressure off a little to allow it to sit there more comfortably. Because it is a very forward-placed vowel shape. Again, there is work to be done on that. I use E-vowels throughout my videos and on the Voice Essentials exercise collection. There you go. Wow, what a show. I feel like we've run a marathon today. Massive. Okay, we covered 15 questions today. I think that's pretty good. I think we've done all right. I hope you've enjoyed today's show. I always do. Join me next week. We've got special guests, Laurel and David, Dr. David from Voice Science Works. Don't forget, keep an eye out online for, and I'll be sending out an email. If you're on one of my email lists, you'll get an email letting you know that Voice Essentials 3 has launched. But we are less than a week away from that. There's a lot for me to do in that between now and then, but we'll get it done, as we always do here on Voice Essentials. Hit the thumbs up button if you've enjoyed today's video. Share it with a friend if you feel it'll be helpful. Otherwise, I do very much look forward to seeing you again next week, when you'll always hear me sign off by saying, I'm Dr. Dan, sing well.